This is my 1984 Mercedes-Benz 300Td wagon. The three-pointed star that is atop the hood stands for land, air, and sea. That's why it has 3 points on the emblem. A great feature about old Mercedes like this, and even Mercedes of today, is that the hood doesn't just go up at a 45 or even a 50-degree angle. It goes straight up and down. Mercedes-Benz 300Ds were all powered by a 3-liter inline-5 diesel engine, whether that was turbo or non-turbo. The example you see here is a turbocharged 3-liter inline-5 producing 130 horsepower and 180 pound-feet of torque. To some, this might be looking like a hodgepodge mess, but honestly, once you look at all of this stuff and figure out what it is, and once you know what it is, it's actually quite simple. You can see the little baby turbo right down in there, sucking in the air. This is the, obviously, coolant reservoir for the radiator. This, on the side of the radiator, is a trans cooler. Fans in the front. This is a hydraulic reservoir. I'll get to that later. AC lines. External wastegate for the turbo, and all of these little plastic lines you see around here, everything is run off of that. So whether that's the door unlock mechanism or it's the shifting mechanism for the tranny, it all runs off of these little lines. So if you have a crack in your line, it's not going to work. More things under the hood. This reservoir right here isn't actually a reservoir, it's the actual filter for the oil, so you don't have to go underneath and get all oily and dirty. There's a pre-filter for the injection pump, which is right here. Power steering and hydraulic pump are right here. And washer bottle fluid. And this little box here are the fuses. Not a lot of them. Probably the easiest way to describe an injection pump on an old Mercedes diesel like this is to think of it as a baby engine on the side of an engine. It has its own cam, has pistons inside that actually force the fluid from in here all the way into the injectors, which are right here along the side, 5 of them. And it has filters, it has a little plunger right here for when you need to prime it again. And this is a very high stress component, one that needs to be highly maintained, and one that you don't want to neglect, or else it'll cause other issues that could be catastrophic. A wagon in decent condition, such as mine, is a pretty rare commodity here in the United States. Elsewhere in European countries, you'll see these a lot more often, but 4-doors and 2-door coupes and SDs are more common here in the United States. I plasti-dipped the rear emblems, including the 300Td, the Landon C, and the turbo diesel badge. And thought I'd throw a name on there, Turbo Diesel Battle Wagon. I figured it was a pretty fitting name, being that these cars are known to be just bulletproof, reliable, and going for 500,000 miles easy. A really cool feature on this vehicle that only came in the wagon was rear hydraulic suspension. Now that only came in the wagons, being that wagons held more weight. Typically in European states they sometimes towed. So that basically levels out the suspension, and so if you ever see a wagon going down the road that is absolutely on the ground, you'll know why. Now keep in mind, this is a 1984 car, so back in the day they didn't have power folding mirrors or mirrors that just folded in manually. They had this. You go and hit something, it'll move, it'll be forgiving, but it doesn't bend all the way. It's spring-loaded, so it goes right back into place. Pretty funny feature of this car. Now the interior of my vehicle isn't actually as bad as some might think. Back in the day it had air conditioning, cruise control, power antenna, an automatic transmission, radio stereo cassette that's right there in the middle. leather seats that were super comfortable. So depending on what model you got, sometimes you had a clock, sometimes you had a tach. It really didn't make any sense to me why you'd have a clock instead of a tachometer, especially if you had a manual 240D. But I'm pleased to report that all of the VDO gauges in this car actually still work. So that includes the gas gauge, the oil pressure right there, the temperature, the tach, and even the clock right there. Another odd feature about this car that I find kind of funny is that the passenger side view mirror can be adjusted right here using this little controller. Left, right, up and down, back and forth, yada yada. But if you wanted to move the driver door, you had to do it manually. I'm not sure why they did that, what the purpose was, but I find that funny. Now, some might call this sparse, but back in the day, this was top of the line luxury. This is missing, I agree. Yes, it's not perfect. But you had a rear dome light switch, a rear windscreen wiper plus fluid, and that's what all three of these are for. The antenna up and down switch, rear defrost, automatic air conditioning, cold and hot. You turn this little rotary dial. Pretty cool stuff. And your automatic transmission. Another quirk or feature that I find funny about this car, say that you have the headrest up and you want to have it down. You can't just push it down, that just doesn't work. So what you have to do is you have to put down the camera and push this button right here and push down at the same time. If you do that, let's see if I can do this without falling down. If you can do that, push that, headrest goes down. What do you know? Pretty funny. So in addition to having automatic cruise control, automatic air conditioning, automatic door locks, automatic transmission, this also has a manual sunroof. Pretty ironic, huh? Pretty cool to note that this car still has the original first aid kit, as well as the jack and everything necessary to change a tire. And speaking of changing a tire, this still has the original Pirelli spare wheel and tire. Pretty cool that it's never been used, and looks like it still could be used, but probably wouldn't be safe. Another funny feature about this car is the way that certain materials have aged over the time. The sun has beaten down and dried out certain products and discolored certain things. As you can see on the cover for the spare wheel, it has definitely changed color in certain places where other places haven't. This was an original yellowish tan carpet. Now it's turning pink. Alright, let's see if I can get this on camera. So right down here near the side of the seat, there's a lever. You press down on the lever, lift up on the seat, and then that same lever you push to fold the front of the seat, you pull it again to fold the back of the seat. They clip in, and you have a flat loading space. And with both seats folded down in a 40-60 configuration, you could fit a 5'10" person in there no problem, as I shall now demonstrate. Easily fit my whole body inside, no problem, and close the trunk still. I've actually gone camping in this. It suited pretty well. It stays warm. No complaints. So those are just some of the features of my 1983 Mercedes-Benz 300Td wagon. I'm going to take it out on the road now and talk about more about what makes this car so cool. Before we set off though, I would like to brag a little bit about how few things aren't actually working on this car. One being the antenna doesn't go up and down anymore. Two, the door locks. You used to be able to put your key in the door, turn it and hold it, and it'll unlock all the doors automatically. It doesn't do that anymore. Three, the AC and HVAC controls don't really work that much. Only the defrost button works. Like I mentioned before, the cruise control doesn't work either. But that's it. Everything else in this car works great, actually. All of the gauges work, the radio works, and it works actually pretty well. The dome lights work, the Everything works in here just fine. That's one testament to the build quality of this car. The horn works. Windshield wipers work. Lights turn on. A lot of people don't know this, but a way to turn on the center fog lights, the amber Bosch center fog lights, you pull this switch, you turn this switch, those are the regular running lights, and then you pull out, that's how you turn on the fog lights. Pretty cool. A lot of people actually don't know that for some reason. As you can see, all of the gauges are running and functioning now, just as they should be. Even the clock's accurate. Some of you might be wondering what that is. That's just a holder for my phone, for my pop socket. Super comfortable seats. The back seats never came with headrests though. A lot of people don't know that. That's just a thing. That's how they fold down. That's how they were designed. But yeah, like I said, you could fit 5 people in here, okay. Kind of in a pinch. Let's try to open this up. It does take a little bit of elbow grease to open up the sunroof, but it works. It's actually really big. The opening is really wide, and you have this little deflector right here. And if you can see those words right there, let's try to focus in on that. Wabasto. That might have been the manufacturer who installed these or made that part. Not quite sure, but that is a cool feature. The mirrors do kind of work-ish. They're a little broken, but nonetheless, they're there. So let's get on the road. Let's see how this thing drives. Now, I will admit that some of you keen 300D owners will probably notice that this car is a little louder. That is true. I cut off all of the exhaust. I thought it would be cool. I'm 22 years old. What do you expect from a dumb kid as young as me? But it sounds cool. You can hear the turbo. It sounds like a diesel truck going down the road, and a lot of people don't expect that kind of a noise coming from an old car like this. It's actually pretty funny. So if you go online, you can see many videos of these cars getting their shakedown tests back in the early 80s by Mercedes test drivers, and those are some really cool videos. These cars were probably some of the best handling cars of the time, with the double wishbone suspension in the front, and at least for the sedans, independent rear suspension with coils. That was pretty cool for back in the day. Not a lot of cars had that, and they were actually really good driving cars. So that's a brief overview of my Mercedes-Benz 300Td Wagon. I'm not quite sure what this car says about me, but I know what it does stand for, and it stands for good reliability, good build quality, and a timeless design that really echoes with the older generation. I do get approached by a lot of older people saying, oh, we grew up with one of these and we loved having it. You don't get babes in this car, is what I'm trying to say. You're not going to get any babes in this car. This car has done me well since I've owned it. I've probably only owned it for about a year and a half now, so fairly recently, but just decided to do a video on this just now because it's clean, it's running well, it's always run well. It's got 375,000 miles on it. Still runs like a top. Can't complain. This is a good daily driver for traffic. It sounds great, looks great, can't complain. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. See you guys next time.